You are now watching Cocktails and Conversations with your host, Javante Wilson.
Open up, you OPN, bitch, you won't BBM.
Welcome back, guys. We are still here with the beautiful Carlisha. So I had a question.
I have an answer.
Okay. So we're now seeing a lot of young children transition early. What is your view on children transitioning?
It's actually a really good question.
Okay.
Before you can even really answer it, I think it's important that you really unpack what we're talking about, and that a child expressing that their gender is in alignment with who they are has to be an aha moment. You need to at least validate in your child. Now, when we talk about transitioning, there's several ways to transition, whether it's, if Gus now wants to be called Sarah, honoring Sarah. It is if Gus now wants to wear female clothing, allowing Gus to wear female clothing. A big opportunity that I noticed with, what's that sweet girl's name?
Zaya?
Dwayne Wade's daughter, Zaya. What I noticed was as that conversation started hitting the headlines, everyone was they drove straight to hormone therapy, sexual reassignment surgery, sexuality versus just honoring a child where the child was at an expression.
Absolutely, because that's all she said.
Literally, we created so many conversations, in our head. I mean, this is when, I feel today there's a dumbing down of society, and there is just no logic, because all she said was, I'm trans. And her father said, we love you.
Right.
We don't know what that looks like.
Right.
Are we just calling her Zaya?
Right.
Have we ensured that Zaya's entire school calls her Zaya?
Yeah.
Are we just now slowly transitioning Zaya's clothes to be more female expressive? But because of the lack of education and the ignorance of society, we instantly start projecting our ideas and our own perversions and our own insecurities onto, what other families are doing. It's really a case-by-case study, to be honest with you. Transitioning is not a monolith, and however it shows up, it shows up. What I will say is I don't believe hormone therapy should start until, a child actually starts introducing their hormonal period. So when a kid hits puberty, let's really talk about that. If the child has been consistent by way of puberty to who they want to be, by way of therapy, let's give our kids the tools to find a posture in who they are and just support them where they're at. Of course, parent them through it, but it's such a taboo, it's a weird topic, because you're literally talking about a parent abandoning, I had a boy and now I'm embracing it being a girl, but there's ways to go about it without it being aggressive, and then there's ways to go about it to support the child once it starts becoming time to really start transitioning them. Because what you don't want to do is you holding an iron fist over your trans son and making him go through puberty, which is going to make his transition that much harder, which is going to cause depression later on down the road. And all you had to do was say, I see it, he's in his senior ball, and he just wants to start taking testosterone. It's very clear, that's my son. Meet the fucking kid. If you can give a little girl birth control, you should be able to give your trans boy testosterone. It's really easy. But
And I think another thing
There's
that's
just
an issue is, there's one that you said that stood out, is gender expression and sexuality are two different things, correct?
Completely.
Yes, and so us on the outside, even including myself, have trouble trying to figure out, okay, so if it's separate, how does it work? And okay, so you want to transition.
I'll give it to you real simple.
Okay.
Gender identity is who I go to bed as.
Okay.
Sexuality is who I go to bed with. It's really that simple.
That's good stuff.
There are it's two different worlds, and the big opportunity is as we continue to evolve on this spectrum of sexuality and gender expression, that the ideas that we've been giving man, woman, heterosexual, gay, bi, all those constructs are being fucking blurred. And I know to a lot of people as we go through the LGBTQAI plus spectrum and all these letters, it's almost unfair because as a straight man you have an identity, as a gay man you have an identity, as a trans woman you have an, and what happens if you don't identify with that? We're saying because we have our identities, we're good, and you guys just need to just figure out with what we have, because that's taking on that superiority complex by way of white supremacy. We're talking about intersectionalities, that same energy, right? All these other identities don't matter because this is enough. That superiority. I can't handle that shit.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Another question. So recently, I was on Jacked, and someone hit me up. Very handsome guy. We're talking, messaging back and forth probably for like a week or so. And so the conversation went more sexual. In the midst of it going sexual, he starts sending videos. Once I received the videos, it was of Jane. And so I asked, I said, "Are you trans?" And he said, "Yeah." I was completely thrown off because I had no idea. You know, he looked just like a cisgender male. I would never have known that he was trans. So do you feel like it's important to disclose, that you are trans, or what's your stance on that?
It's a case by case again.
Okay.
Every situation is never going to be the same, and it's really about a safety piece for the trans person. And the reality is, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. There's no real way to go about this without getting the proper respect, especially of yourself. It's like the objective for trans people to get so passable in your gender identity that no one would ever question your transness, which I think is a little unhealthy. But that's society's construct. We need you to fit this mold. So now I fit the mold, and now I'm trying to lean into hetero-cis normative society. Now I'm dating. Do I lean in and say, "Hey babe, by the way, I'm transgender"? Do you think he's gonna deal with me right away? Or do I see how this goes? Hopefully he's connecting with me beyond my physical. Maybe there's a mental connection. Maybe he's gonna be that type of man that if my wife gets sick and we can't have sex, I'm gonna stay with her type of man. Maybe he possesses that. So then when I finally get comfortable enough and we start becoming, mentally intimate, I'm gonna say, this is really hard for me. Now that I feel like I can trust you with my secret, this is what it is. And most of the time they're not okay with it. You tricked me. So how am I supposed to navigate? Am I supposed to stay in the shadow with these perverts who only utilize me by way of sexuality? Or do I lean into hetero-cis normative society that has literally shaped the way this world works? And hopefully if I can get a man's buy-in, he'll see beyond my gender expression. And this is where that, the man that trans girls think they want to be with is that straight guy. But the way a straight man thinks when it comes to gender expression and being trans and being with a trans woman, it always isn't in alignment with what your physical is. So it's like, am I going to get a sex change or a reconstructive surgery just to appease a man? Or am I getting reconstructive surgery, corrective surgery, because that's part of my expression? It gets so jumbled and wild that the most important part is just making sure you're comfortable and safe in all of it. And there's been times where a man had not a fucking clue. And I've had those conversations, and I can just, the fucked up part is this. I can tell by how he's treating me. When a man starts putting too much value in me, when he starts courting me properly, when a man starts speaking to me like he's actually worried about how I perceive him as a man. It's fucked up that I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were aware, but when you gave me your number at the mall, did you know I was trans? Fuck, you're a dude? Trans trauma. So what do? Do I just stay quiet and see if maybe I can get his buy-in? Or do I just take those sucker punch after sucker punch after sucker? And maybe eventually someone's not gonna punch me and like me. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So then, if we jump on the sexuality part, and again, I'm naive, so please educate me. When you have, in his scenario, you have a trans man that's interested in a cis man. So, I'm not trying to say put it in a box per se.
You are.
But
Okay. Call a fucking thing a thing.
well, I don't know. I'm learning. This is
You're learning, but you're also sharing the same ignorance as your cis hetero male. What's the word I'm looking for? Not counterpart, but what's the word? Oppressor.
Okay. It hurts.
Oppressor. Cis hetero male oppressor.
And I'm glad I'm having this conversation because
Yay, lean into
we
it.
don't have these conversations though. You know what I mean? To be able to learn more about this. But like, I guess maybe it shouldn't be for me to understand. But when I see someone that's trans man that's interested in a cis man sexually, I guess like what is like what do you call it?
What do you call it? You call it a trans man being attracted to a cis man. I don't think that it has to be so overly developed and defined. It just call a fucking thing a thing. What I will say is, as all these constructs are falling away, what we're seeing is a really beautiful thing, especially within the queer diaspora, that lines even amongst us are starting to become blurred. Within our space, we do the whole LGBTQAI plus, we have like the leather bars, the femme bars, the dyke bars. We're starting to see everything is starting to blur again. And that's really important because the only reason why we were divided was so that they could properly advertise to us. But we jumped down, well, this is my identity versus being able to identify as who we are amongst us, right? What I'm liking is that more trans folk are abandoning the pressure of having to identify through hetero-cis normative. And what I mean by that is, as a trans woman, that I'm supposed to be conditioned to ensure that my whole life objective is to be desirable to a heterosexual man. Fuck out of here. First of all, I have the biggest problem when a man comes into my DM and goes, I'm straight, but you're pretty. You are not gonna fucking devalue me as a trans woman. That statement in itself, but you're pretty, that you're pretty for black. You're pretty as a black girl. You're pretty, you're handsome as a gay. Fall back, homeboy. For all I'm hearing is underdeveloped. I'm hearing lack of posture. And until you deal with your sexuality the way I've had to deal with my gender identity and sexuality and the struggles of my fucking life, don't talk to me. I'm not gonna coddle you in your, I'm straight. No, you're not. Your girlfriend has a dick. The reality is this, though. The reality is this. It's not that they have an issue. It's not that they have an issue with being called gay. These men have an issue with letting go of being straight. Because of that toxic masculinity shit. And I work so hard to be me that I am not gonna deal with a man who is barely getting to the space of owning his posture. That's me taking a step back. I need my equal. Period.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So we're gonna take a short break and we're gonna come back with the beautiful Carlisha.
Like, I caught him looking at my ass once, and I was like,
Which you had a guest on there that said he was the prettiest. I like to challenge that.
PG. Like, Peggy. You didn't want to
back, guys. And so we're going to close. I would love for Carlisha to give us, or give the person that may be going back and forth with themselves about transitioning, what would be like some advice that you would give that person?
Someone going back and forth with transitioning,
Or maybe want to transition but afraid to, or
fear in transition.
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone's having fear in transitioning, the first advice I would say is lean into self. As challenging as it may be with everything going on in the world, try to quiet yourself and really just pay attention to who you are and your authentic voice and your authentic expression. And if all things point to yes, do it. Because that is going to be the biggest weight on your shoulders your entire life if you try to become someone who you are not to appease everyone else other than yourself. You find yourself in situations such as, gay men who create an entire family with a woman, knowing damn well that they wanted to be with a man. And later on, it's even harder. Caitlyn Jenner creating a whole family, and now you're Mr. Mom. So it's like, simplify the obstacles by looking the shit in the fucking mirror, owning it, and just really finding the strength in that. But the biggest challenge in that is really making sure that as you go down this journey, ensuring that you have all the right people in your corner that are giving you healthy advice to get you through the transition in the best way possible that will best serve you.
That's good stuff. And how could the people keep up with you and follow you on social media?
OnlyFans.
On their demon time. It's like, let me take a cool sip.
On the demon time.
I cannot with y'all. I'm not about to play.
You're the one that wanted to have cocktails.
Okay.
So listen, you can find me on Instagram at Carlisha_Giselle. That's CARLISHA __ Giselle GIZELLE. And on Facebook, I think it's just Carlisha Brown.
Okay. And we'll
And I can plug my OnlyFans game.
Real quick.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Leo, for being an amazing co-host.
Thank you. I'm trying to be like you.
And I was trying not to get seasick while we were having this conversation.
Because baby is dipping. Let's see it.
I mean, low currencies with the
I mean, that's what's up. You know what I mean?
Boy.
I love all that. And you know what the shade is? As we talk about blurring lines, I'm enjoying the Butch Queens and the Femme Queens finally finding solace. So that's a great relationship.
Oh, that's another topic.
Yeah. How can people follow you?
Well, you can. I wasn't ready for it. That was just Carlisha. But
if he walks by, it's hard not to.
Well, on that note, Leo the Great, LEOTHEGR.
MOU.
I cannot.
Just ask them. I'm out of here. No, it's LEOTHEGR, the number 8, and then the letter T.
Oh, Instagram, right?
On Instagram, Leo the Great.
There we go. Well, I love you guys for watching. I will see you guys next week. Bye.